Thursday night was supposed to be easy. I had the TV on low, a beer sweating in my hand, and a stack of glossy envelopes spread out across the dining table. Dana had asked me to help with the invites for her team's company retreat, some weekend bonding thing in the mountains. Normally I wouldn't bother, but she said it was a big deal, her whole team would be there. I figured pitching in made me a decent husband. I was halfway through writing Karen and Ben +1 when I asked, offhand, "So what's the schedule like for this retreat? Early mornings, or do you all get to sleep in?" Across the room, Dana froze. She had her phone in her lap, thumb mid-scroll. I watched her head slowly turn toward me like she just remembered something she wasn't supposed to forget. Her brow creased. "That retreat?" she said, her voice too light. "It was last weekend." I stared at her. "What? I told you about this, Ray." "No, you didn't." She flipped her phone toward me. "Look," she said, tapping open her photos, a carousel of smiling faces. Dana in a sundress holding a champagne glass. Her brother, Tony, beaming like he just won a lottery. Their whole family, her mom, Elise, cousins, even Dana's boss, clustered in group shots. A fancy backdrop that clearly wasn't a team bonding getaway. "You said it was for your company." It was sort of Tony's launch party. He invited everyone, work and family. I kept flipping through the photos. Champagne, fake grass walls, branded neon signs. Everyone was dressed up. Everyone was smiling. Everyone except me, because I wasn't in a single one. Why wasn't I there? I asked, not even trying to keep the edge out of my voice. "I thought we talked about this," she said, which was code for, "I hoped you wouldn't ask." And that's when Elise piped up from the couch, voice lazy like she was watching something mildly interesting. "Didn't we tell you?" she called out, laughing as if the whole thing was some hilarious misunderstanding. "No, you didn't." There was no apology, no explanation. Dana just stared at her phone again. Elise chuckled like it was nothing. That was when it hit me. I was never part of the inner circle. Not really. I was the one who took the group photo, not the one in it. The one who paid for the drinks, not the one toasted. A tolerated accessory, the +1 to their family, useful when convenient, invisible when not. I stood up, the envelope in my hand, suddenly feeling ridiculous. "Who else was there?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "Everyone," Dana said softly. "Everyone but me." That night, Dana lay beside me, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. The soft blue glow flickered across her face. She didn't say a word, didn't reach for me. Just the tap-tap of her thumb and the occasional smile at whatever she was looking at. Probably another photo from that launch party. I stared at the ceiling, not sleeping, not even pretending. It wasn't just the party. It was every little moment before that. The skipped dinners. The group photos I wasn't in. The beach trip I found out about after Dana got back. "Oh, it was just something Elise threw together last minute," she had said. But they had matching shirts, coordinated towels, a rented beach house. There were so many moments like that. Birthday dinners I found out about from Instagram. Group chats Dana would silence when I walked into the room. One time I asked about a family brunch she casually mentioned, and she laughed and said, "Oh, you wouldn't have wanted to go." It was boring. It was never forgetfulness. I saw that now. It was precision. A quiet push outward, over and over again. Until I stopped asking. Until I stopped expecting. I turned away from Dana and pulled my phone from the nightstand. I opened the album from her party and scrolled through again. 32 pictures. 0 of me. 0 acknowledgement that I existed in her life outside of this bed, this house. And I'd been fine with that. Somehow, I convinced myself that being helpful was the same as being loved. That paying for Dana's car repairs, sending her sister money for her boutique, sitting in the background quietly, that was my role. That was enough. But it never had been. I tapped through the photos again. Tony posing with a mic like he was on Shark Tank. Dana beaming beside him. Dana's mom holding court with a champagne flute. Everyone there looked like a cast in a show I didn't get the script for. I was never meant to be in those pictures. That wasn't an oversight. That was the plan. The phone dimmed and shut off. I let it fall back to the nightstand. Dana shifted beside me and sighed, murmuring something I couldn't quite make out. I stayed still, quiet, like a ghost in my own home, in my own marriage. That was the moment I stopped trying to make sense of it. They hadn't forgotten me. They had erased me, and I finally saw it for what it was. A choice, not mine, theirs. The next morning, I woke up before Dana. I didn't even bother pretending to sleep in like usual. I just got up, dressed quietly, and walked down to the kitchen with that hollow feeling still wedged between my ribs. I made coffee, black and bitter. No music, no TV, just silence. Then I sat down with my laptop and opened a spreadsheet I hadn't looked at in a long time. At first, it was just a check on some credit card payments. I told myself that. But once I started, I couldn't stop. Line by line, I started pulling the numbers. Transfers. Purchases. Things I paid for that were never mine. The office chairs for Dana's mom's life coaching business, $2,800. A small investment in Elisa's fashion line that folded within 6 months, $5,000. New laptops and software subscriptions for Tony's app company, $9,200. He never even said thank you. I kept going. Groceries I covered on their family vacations I wasn't invited to. Flights booked for Dana's relatives. A security deposit for her cousin's rental unit. One of Elisa's rent payments when she just needed a little buffer. Tens of thousands of dollars. All flowing out of my accounts like water down a drain. And the weirdest part? I hadn't even noticed. I just thought, well, that's what you do when you're married into a big family. You help. You support. You keep the peace. But peace was never the point. I was a funding source, not a partner, not family. A quiet investor in people who never thought twice about what it cost me. I pulled up Dana's old messages, searched for things like, do you mind covering, or they just need a little help. I read them now with new eyes. Not love, not appreciation. Just expectation. Like I was the family accountant, not her husband. At some point, Dana padded into the kitchen, still in her robe, hair tied up, eyes half open. She poured herself some coffee and leaned against the counter, watching me work. What are you doing? She asked. I looked at her for a second. Just some numbers. She blinked, then shrugged and sipped her coffee. Cool. Don't forget we're supposed to pick up something for Elisa's loft later. I didn't answer. I just turned back to the screen. There was a line between helpful and used. Somehow I had crossed it a long time ago without even realizing. And now I was quietly, methodically, following that line backward. Every dollar, every favor, every silent nod I gave when I should have said no. This wasn't an argument. It wasn't a fight. It was a reckoning. And Dana didn't even notice it had started. After that morning, something shifted in me. I didn't make an announcement. I didn't storm out or throw accusations. I just stopped. Stopped initiating plans. Stopped asking if Dana wanted to watch a movie or grab dinner or go for a walk. I let the silence sit between us and she didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. I stopped responding to Elisa's group messages. The ones with 25 exclamation points about her new throw pillows or candle arrangements. I let Dana go to her family brunches without me. She always said, you don't have to come if you don't want to anyway. So I didn't. At first, I wondered if they'd ask, where's Ray? Is he okay? But no one did. The weird thing was, life around them carried on like I hadn't moved. Like I wasn't slowly stepping out of the picture. One afternoon, Dana put me on speakerphone while she helped her mom set up something on her iPad. Her mom's voice was loud and clear across the kitchen. Just ask the IT guy, she said. Dana didn't correct her. She meant me, the husband, the provider, the man who paid for her new desk and ergonomic chair when she decided to become a life coach. The IT guy. I sat there with a glass of water in my hand, my knuckles tight around it, and said nothing. Just nodded and got her Wi-Fi working. That was the role, apparently. Fix the connection. Stay out of the way. Later that week, Dana said we were stopping by Elisa's place, her new loft. I didn't know there was a party. She said it was just a quick visit. No big deal. We pulled up and I could see through the windows. It wasn't just a few people. It was everyone. Laughter spilled out of the open patio doors. Music. Champagne glasses. Toasts. Elise in the middle of the room holding court like she was hosting a gala. I looked at Dana. You didn't tell me it was a party. She shrugged. I figured you'd be fine just hanging back. We stood there for a second. No one waved. No one noticed us. And that was when it landed. I wasn't part of it anymore. Maybe I never really was. I got back in the car. I told Dana I wasn't feeling well. She didn't argue. She went inside. I watched the glow from the windows and felt nothing. Not sadness. Not anger. Just the still, firm resolve. They didn't miss me when I was quiet. So maybe it was time to stay that way. 2 days later, I called Owen. We hadn't talked much lately, life, work, whatever. But he picked up on the second ring. Ray? You okay? I didn't even try to sugarcoat it. I need to get untangled. There was a pause on the line. Untangled how? I mean everything. Bank transfers. Autopays. Shared accounts. Access. All of it. I want out. Owen exhaled into the phone. You want out? Not revenge, I said. Just quiet. He got it. Owen always did. We met that night in his office, small, warm, cluttered like a real person worked there. I laid it out for him, the payments, the small favors, the cards I co-signed on but never used. The utilities under my name for homes I didn't live in. The quiet ways I'd financed their lives without them ever thinking twice. Jesus, Owen muttered, flipping through the folder I'd brought. Yeah. You got receipts for all of this? Every dime, I said, and I did. I'd spent hours organizing it all. Neatly labeled PDFs, account statements, even screenshots of messages where Dana or Elise asked for a little help. He shook his head. You've basically been a silent partner to the entire family. I gave a bitter laugh. Except there was nothing silent about what it cost me. We spent the next hour walking through the logistics. Owen was methodical, asking the right questions, drafting the right letters. We started with the joint credit cards. Then the automatic transfers to Dana's mom's business. Then the family phone plan that included half of her cousins. You want me to notify them or just shut it all down? He asked. Just shut it down, I said. Let them notice when they can't log in. He nodded, then paused. You sure you're ready for the fallout? I looked him straight in the eye. I stopped existing in that family months ago. I'm just catching up. The next few days, I moved like a shadow. I revoked Dana's access to the emergency savings account. Transferred my name off the utilities at Elisa's place. Canceled the recurring PayPal subscriptions for Tony's business tools. Locked down every account I had a whisper of involvement in. No confrontations. No arguments. Just clean, silent exits. I even had Owen help draft a document, a polite but final letter explaining that I was stepping away from all financial entanglements, effective immediately. I kept a copy for myself. Didn't send it. Not yet. But I would. And when I did, it wouldn't be with yelling or tears. It would be with precision. Calm. Legal. Final. I wasn't cutting them off in anger. I was pulling myself free. And for the first time in years, I could breathe. They showed up on a Wednesday. No warning. No text. Just a sharp knock on the door around noon while I was home on my lunch break. I opened it to see Dana's mother and Elise standing on my front step like I'd summoned them. They weren't angry, not yet. Just confused. Rattled. Ray, her mom said, holding her purse tight to her chest. We need to talk. Elise stepped past me without asking, heels clicking against the hardwood. Her mom followed, head swiveling like she expected to see Dana hiding behind a corner. I didn't say anything. I just walked into the living room, pulled a thick folder from the coffee table, and held it out. What's this? Elise asked, arms crossed. I handed it over. That, I said, is what support looked like. She blinked, flipping it open. Inside, invoices. Bank statements. Transfer receipts. Signed checks. Itemized lists. Line after line, date after date, all proof of what I had covered. From Elisa's rent to Dana's mom's business license renewal to utility bills that mysteriously ended up under my name. Her mom leaned over Elisa's shoulder as the pages turned, the silence thickening with every flip. You've been keeping track of all this? She finally said, voice small. I didn't need to, I replied. The bank did it for me. Elise looked up, her eyes narrowed. So what? You want it back now? Is that what this is? No, I said simply. I'm not asking for anything. Then what's the point of all this? Her mother snapped. I looked her straight in the eye. The point is to make it clear. The account is closed. Elisa's mouth opened, then shut. Dana had said nothing. She stood by the kitchen island now, frozen, still in her work clothes. She hadn't even told them I'd started cutting the ties, they were just now putting it together. You're overreacting, her mom tried again. We're family. Families don't keep receipts. They do when they're being used like an ATM, I said. Dana still hadn't moved. She hadn't said a single word. I don't expect an apology, I added. Just understanding. You needed help. I gave it. But I'm not giving any more. I turned and walked up the stairs without another word. Behind me, the only sound was the soft rustling of paper and the hollow quiet of people realizing, for the first time, that the well had finally run dry. They didn't call after me. They didn't stop me. Because they knew. The account was closed. A week later, they came back. Dana had them over again, her mother and Elise. This time, it was more casual. A bottle of wine already open, little appetizer plates on the counter. Fake smiles. Forced laughter. The kind of gathering people hold when they want to pretend nothing ever happened. I walked in through the front door, set my keys down, and they all looked up like I was the unexpected guest in my own home. "Ray," Dana said lightly, like she wasn't bracing. "We were just—" "I know," I said, cutting her off. "I won't stay long." I walked into the room slowly, calmly, and pulled an envelope from my jacket pocket. Not a dramatic manila folder this time. Just a simple, white envelope. Clean. Unassuming. I set it down on the coffee table between them. "This is what entitlement looks like," I said, then stepped back. No yelling. No performance. Just the truth placed neatly on the table. They didn't move right away. Dana's mom gave me a look like I was being theatrical again. Elise rolled her eyes and reached for it first, like she expected a second round of receipts and bill summaries. It wasn't that. Inside was a collection of screenshots. Messages. Emails. Notes. Requests they never expected anyone to keep. "Elise, can Ray Venmo me again?" "Just like last time, I don't want to ask Tony, he's weird about money." Dana's mom, "Ray won't mind covering it. He's always good for it." Dana, in a group chat I was never meant to see, "Ray's not really part of this. It's easier if we don't involve him." And then, my favorite, a message from Elise to Dana from earlier this year. "Honestly, sometimes I think he likes being used." They read in silence. I didn't need to explain any of it. The timestamps, the tone, the way they spoke about me when I wasn't there, it said more than I ever could. Dana stayed quiet, still on the stool, hands folded like she was trying to hold her body together. She didn't cry. She didn't defend them. She just sat. When I turned to leave, no one stopped me. No one called my name. I didn't need them to. Because I hadn't dropped that envelope to win anything. I dropped it to remind them of what they already knew, that I had been invisible long before I chose to disappear. And now, the only thing I left behind was evidence. Not to hurt them. Just to let them sit with the truth they built. All by themselves. 3 weeks later, I moved into the condo. It wasn't sudden. I'd bought it years ago, back when things with Dana still felt stable, and I thought real estate was just a smart backup. A downtown unit, nothing flashy, just quiet, high windows, exposed brick, good bones. I'd never stayed there before. Never needed to. But now? It felt like a sanctuary. The first night, I sat on the floor with a sandwich, a folding chair, and silence. No background noise. No family voices from the next room. Just the hum of the fridge and the soft buzz of city life through the double-pane windows. It was perfect. I didn't rush to fill it with furniture. I bought a bed, a small table, a few kitchen things. No clutter. No throw pillows from Elise. No framed group shots with Dana's family. There were never any of me in them anyway. The days felt clean. Sharp. Structured. I got up early. Took walks. Cooked small, quiet meals. Listened to music I liked, not the playlists Dana used to blast when she needed to set a vibe. I focused on work again, the part of me that still made sense. I knocked out 3 pending projects in a week. I fixed things. Completed things. It had been so long since I'd lived without being interrupted. I went to the gym again. Not to change anything about myself. Just to feel the rhythm of my own breath. To remember that my body was mine. The silence, once terrifying, became sacred. There was no one to apologize to. No one to explain myself to. No casual dismissal in my own home. There were calls, of course. Dana texted twice that first week. The messages were short. "Can we talk? You left so fast. It doesn't feel real." I didn't reply. Her mom sent one, too. Something about acting out and how families heal. I deleted it without reading past the preview. A week after I moved in, Elise left a voicemail. She tried to sound casual, said she was in the neighborhood, wanted to grab coffee, maybe talk as friends. I didn't even listen to the end of it. They weren't angry anymore. They were confused. The support beam had walked away and they were just starting to notice how much weight it had been carrying. But I wasn't going back. I wasn't mad. Not anymore. I was just living. No more budgeting for everyone else's crises. No more being the person who made sure everything ran smoothly while being treated like a footnote. No more background role in a story that never included me. Now it was just me. And that was enough. For the first time in years, that was finally enough. It was a rainy Sunday when Dana showed up. I heard the buzz from the intercom and ignored it at first. Then the second one came, longer this time. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the kettle as it clicked off. The third buzz. Then a pause. Then a knock. I opened the door, and there she was, soaked from the shoulders down, her hair damp and clinging to her face. She hadn't brought an umbrella. Probably didn't plan to come. Probably just did. "Hi," she said, voice soft, eyes darting around the empty condo behind me. "Can I come in?" I didn't answer, just stepped aside. She walked in slowly, taking it all in. The bare walls, the quiet, the absence of anything familiar. She stood near the window, arms wrapped around herself. "You really moved out," she said. I leaned against the counter. "Yeah." There was a long pause. Rain tapped at the glass behind her. "I miss you," she said quietly. "I keep thinking I'll wake up and you'll be back in bed next to me." I didn't say anything. She looked at me, like she wanted me to fill the silence, to crack, to fix things. "I didn't think it would matter," she added, her voice catching. "Not inviting you. I figured you wouldn't care that much." I raised my eyes to meet hers. "That's exactly the problem." She looked down. "Do you still love me?" The question hung in the air. I thought about it for a second. The years, the quiet sacrifices, the way I'd convinced myself that showing up, financially, emotionally, would someday earn me a seat at the table. "I loved who I was when I believed you cared," I said. Her eyes flickered. "That version of me, the one who kept trying, who kept giving, he loved you more than anything. But he's not here anymore." She blinked fast. I could see the tears forming, but she swallowed them down. "I didn't mean to make you feel small," she whispered. I almost laughed. "You didn't have to mean it. You just had to do it enough times that it stuck." There was nothing left to say. She stood there for another moment, then gave a tiny nod and walked to the door. She didn't look back, and I didn't follow. When the door closed behind her, I stood in the stillness. No sadness, no resentment. Just quiet, the kind that feels like strength. A year later, the condo looked different. Books on the shelves. Art on the walls, nothing fancy, just pieces I liked. A proper couch, a coffee table with rings from morning coffee mugs. Life had seeped in, slow and steady. That night, I hosted dinner. Nothing big, just a few friends. People who showed up not because they needed anything, but because they liked me, because they saw me. Couple from work. My neighbor from down the hall. An old friend I hadn't caught up with in years who brought a bottle of red and a story about quitting his job to start a woodshop. We ate pasta I made from scratch. Someone brought pie. We passed plates, laughed too loud, interrupted each other, and nobody minded. Felt real. No performance. No approval to earn. Just a table filled with people I didn't have to explain myself to. After dessert, we sat around with drinks in hand, shoes off, the kind of easy comfort you only find when you're not carrying anything heavy anymore. Someone, I think it was Rachel, the neighbor, asked, "Do you ever hear from Dana's family?" The room quieted just slightly, enough for the question to settle. I shrugged. "Not anymore." I finally got the hint. Everyone laughed. Not cruel, not awkward. Just easy, like a shared sigh. Like someone letting go of a balloon they didn't realize they were holding. No rants. No bitterness. I didn't launch into the full story. I didn't need to. It wasn't about revenge. It was about release. I sipped my drink, leaned back in my chair, and let the moment pass. Just one small answer to a question that used to take up years of my life. When the night wound down, I saw them off one by one. Warm goodbyes, leftover pie packed into foil, an extra bottle of wine left behind on purpose. Then I stepped outside alone. I walked 2 blocks to a small bench at the edge of the Riverwalk, the city lights shimmering across the dark water. I sat down, pulling my coat around me, watching the skyline pulse with slow-moving peace. This was what it looked like to build a life you didn't have to perform in. A life that asked nothing more than for you to simply exist inside it. I wasn't a cautionary tale or a martyr or a man with a dramatic ending. I was just a man who finally said, enough. And somehow that had been the beginning. I sat there a while longer, letting the night wrap around me. There were no calls to ignore, no weight I had to carry, no apology I needed to make or wait for, just peace. And for once, I didn't owe it to anyone but myself.